pick a card, and it says, "What are your thoughts on the future of game hosting?" That's interesting.
That's a good question. Maybe it's good that I look a little bit back at how the game hosting used to be. You had game servers. They were not managed by the game developers. They were just thrown out in the wild, and people themselves were putting them online on servers in a co-location or on a dedicated server somewhere, and then you could play Unreal Tournament 99, for example. Now, a few years later, game companies started to take control of that online part. So they started working with companies such as ours to provide worldwide capacity. But it still was a game server model, a single monolithic process, like server.exe with a bunch of assets, and if lucky, it was stripped of all the client assets, so the server build would maybe be a few gigabytes. If unlucky, you were looking at a 40 gig build with all the graphical assets and everything built in, and you somehow have to work with that. What we do see now is that also in the game server design world, microservices have started to become a thing. So what I expect in the future, whether it makes business sense, business value sense, is, to be determined. But I see a lot of game companies playing with clustered server processes. So you have, instead of one big server process, you have multiple smaller ones talking to each other. They could be still the same machine, they could be also spread over multiple machines, and maybe even over multiple data centers, depending on how the latency. And for us as a platform, it's going to be the challenge to support that and to anticipate that and work with our clients to figure out what would be the ideal solution for the future.
Yeah, just getting more chopped in pieces.
Yes, yeah.
It's about the same development that the internet has been through, actually. Internet's a little bit ahead, I think, on terms of hosting. Everything used to be a monolith, now microservices is a thing.
Yeah.
I see that happening as well in game servers, but I think what would be really cool, I don't know if it's going to happen, if you would chop it up even more to not being able to host a game as separate content or separate processes, but to host it as separate functions. Kind of I can see a future where a game you could compare it to serverless, but the game is distributed among different data centers, but maybe not even data centers. Maybe one part of your game is hosted by the electric car sitting in your street, which is charging. That would be cool, because if it's there charging, it has a lot of CPU, it might as well do something, and you have a wire stuck to it anyway, so why not transfer some data? And because it's in your street, you have really low latency, of course. That's really awesome. And it's also on the edge network that is connected to that car. At the same time, you could host a piece of that game in your browser or on your phone or anything with a CPU. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I'm hoping that something like that's going to happen. I know that I think it would be possible, but that's more like the far future. I think on short term it will be different processes.
Yes, that's probably the first
spread
step.
out. Yeah.
In the end, we can play the game from our fridge. That would be nice. Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
because we'll have a CPU in our fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
But why?
Well, so it can order more beer when the beer is finished. And,
Your fridge will automatically order beer.
Yeah, there are fridges out there who can do that already.
That's nice.
Yes.